paperwork is a fact of life if you live in or are planning to live in Spain. Bureaucracy and red tape is pretty difficult to deal with, even if you can speak a good level of Spanish, in my opinion. But if you're a newbie or you just don't have the time to dedicate to the paper trail, then I'm going to recommend that you speak to Rebecca Bellafont Evans and her team at Majorca Solutions. I was lucky enough to sit down with Becky recently and we chat about the TIE cards for residents, applying for visas, and a whole lot more. So grab yourself a cup of tea and get comfy as we nerd out about the ins and outs of red tape in Mallorca. Okay, firstly let's do this because we have to do this.
Chin chin.
Cheers, chick.
Cheers.
Oh, is it hot though?
It is. You can do it.
Blow.
Nothing like a good cup of tea.
It's very good to know that there's a decent cup of tea at Majorca Solutions.
There you go. I always give you a nice cup of tea or a nice cup of coffee.
You do. You're good at that. It's important. Hot beverages are my life.
I love them.
Welcome, Becky, back to the Majorca Mallorca podcast, and also we're going to be putting this out on YouTube. Introduce yourself to the listener in case they haven't heard of you before, please.
So I'm Becky from Majorca Solutions. We set up in 2008 initially, all that time back when we first met.
Wow.
2008. Our office was based on the outskirts of McLeod near the sports centre, if you remember.
I do remember.
Yep, we were there till about 2016. So that we were there for 8 years, and then we moved over to Palma Nova, to the offices next to the Correos, the post office. And then this new year we said, okay, we're going in with a bang, and we're moving offices. Now we're in Son Bugadillas, as you've seen the office.
Yeah, it's really nice.
All the departments are here, so we've got the properties team as well as the admin and insurance team here, which is good because then we did have the 2 offices in Palma Nova. One was number 2, and then number 5 was the properties.
Yes.
So then we're all kind of
together,
put together, which is better as a team, really. And for those who don't know, we help people with relocating to Mallorca and any official paperwork, as well as insurance and property needs. So we have the whole package, really. If you come to live here, you need a property. We help you search the right property. We help you with all the official paperwork and insurances. We're insurance brokers and work with 34 companies.
Wow, 34.
So, yeah, before I was an exclusive agent for Liberty and DKV, and I decided to expand a little bit more to have a bit more choice. So now as brokers, we can work with all the companies out there. So it's all keeps us busy.
There's no stopping you, is there, really?
No stopping me.
Because when you started in 2008, I think you were already filling a gap and meeting a need of people. And it seems like the demand is just increasing all the time. People really need support getting all this official paperwork done, don't they?
Totally. And initially we started with certain services, which were the most common ones: NIEs, residency, exchanging driver licence, registering at the town hall, getting kids into school. And gradually, as we went expanding and seeing what the demand was, we just went adding on to the services that we offer. When we do change of plates, car transfers, duplicate paperworks, ITVs, getting a licence if you've got what they call a dangerous dog. I.e. like a pit bull or a Rottweiler. Although, bless them, they're not dangerous, but you need these licenses and the insurances that go with them, to getting licenses to cut down trees, set up businesses. There's just so much that we do now.
Yeah. It's actually, coming from another country to move here, it's actually mind-boggling when you think about all the things that you need a bit of paper for that perhaps you didn't need where you lived, or perhaps actually you had it, but you were almost born with it. Like I always had my national insurance number; it just got sent to me automatically when I turned 16 in England. But applying for all this stuff here is a really time-consuming process and very confusing for a lot of people.
I think it's what you say, because you've had it since you were young. Like at 16, you get your national insurance number. You don't know how to apply for that. You don't know where to go. It's just given to you, the same as your ID. Your passport. Then obviously renewing your passport and things like that you do. But here, not only is it that it's Spain, and we all know that in Spain things work a little bit differently. Sometimes you go to a department and they tell you one thing, you go back again and they tell you something else.
Yes.
So you're sent from pillar to post, and then there's a language barrier, but also about the information that changes day to day. Before we had this meeting, I said, hang on a minute, let me just check where we're at on the driving licenses, because it changes from one day to another. It's just been growing and growing.
But you've got a smile on your face. You must enjoy this job because I think it would drive most of us mad.
I know, and you know what? I love it, but when it comes to doing my own paperwork, I'm right at the bottom of the pile.
Really?
I am. Yeah, I kind of leave it there. Just because we're busy.
Have you got your TIE sorted out then?
You know what? Because I've got the Spanish nationality through my father, I've got the Spanish ID card, so I didn't have to change it. But if I had to apply for it, I would probably be at the bottom of the list. Yeah. Before sorting mine.
It is a big question still for a lot of Brits living here. The TIE cards. The last time we spoke was last August?
I remember we were in my car because my other office was so echoey. Yeah. We were like, where are we going? Let's just go in the car.
We sat in there with the aircon on. Yeah.
We did well though. And that was in the summer because we had the aircon on. Yeah. Was that last year?
It was last August.
July? August?
Yeah, I think so. So tell me about how the last 6 months have been, because really, well, actually more than 6 months now, but really it must have been like a tidal wave of applications.
It's been a whirlwind. We've been really, really busy, extremely busy. You know, what happens is that, you know, everybody, when people were contacting us, Vicki, they were like, okay, can we have some information? We couldn't turn it around within 48 to 72 hours. We needed sometimes 5 days to get back to people because we were having like 150 emails coming in daily.
Whoa.
And then obviously an email would be received, and if we hadn't got back to them by the following day, they were calling the office.
Yeah.
Because everybody was in panic mode.
Yeah.
They thought, we've got till the 31st of December. What are we going to do?
Hooray!
Of course, we brought extra staff in. There's 14 of us in the office now. But to train someone on the services that we offer, we can't train them from 1 month or a couple of weeks. It takes anything between 3 to 6 months to make sure that our advisor are giving the right information. And there's so much to learn that it was very busy last year. I'm glad it's calmed down a little bit. We're still extremely busy because we had another deadline for 31st of March this year for initial residency applications.
Yeah.
And that was for anybody who was living here in Mallorca last year in 2020, that they could prove that they're living here, then they had the right to apply for the initial residency application from Mallorca up until the 31st of March.
And that deadline is now passed.
Well, believe it or not, no.
Oh,
no. I was like, but nobody was actually confirming it was the 31st. It wasn't in writing anywhere, but they had told us via the UK that it was going to be about 31st of March. But then it didn't make sense because the driving licenses was going on till the 30th of June. So why initial residency till the 31st of March? So I'm happy to say that we're able to do initial applications for people that could prove they were resident here last year in 2020. We're still allowed to submit them from Majorca up until the 30th of June.
OMG.
I know.
Wow, that's good news for so many people.
And online, because I submit that initial application with immigration online, it's open and you can see that you're allowed to submit those applications.
So what kind of proof do people need to give in order to make that application?
That's a good question because we get asked this all the time. So to prove that you were living here and meet the requirements, you need either a rental contract, if you own a property, that you purchased that property here last year. Private medical insurance is really important, and what would be essential to that application is that you were registered at the town hall, the empadronamiento, last year. We have also been given other options. We don't have the final say, as you know, it's immigration that do. So anything that you can think of, from flight tickets coming in to a rental contract to bank statements that you can prove that you were living here and there's movements, supermarket, wining, dining, entertaining, whatever. Anything that you can do to support the fact that to prove that you were living here, we're taking in and we're submitting. Obviously, immigration have the last word, as I mentioned before, but the key ones, private medical insurance, or that you were working here, that's another important one. If you were working here, then that's clear.
Proof that you've paid your taxes,
for
proof
sure.
that you've paid your social security.
Yes, totally. As autonomo, if you were self-employed, that's also working in Spain. I mean, those are the key ones. If you were living here, and registered at the town hall with a rental contract or with the deeds of the property, working, whether self-employed or for someone in Spain on a Spanish contract, and then bank statements and private medical insurance, all of that is just extra to support the application.
And how long is that process actually taking from... Have you had anybody approved yet?
Yes, we've had quite a lot of them. The ones that we actually submitted up until December last year, December ones are actually coming through now. Okay. So it's as from January, any of the ones that we did in January onwards, we're still waiting for confirmation. So they've gone over the 3 months period that they normally have to get back to us. But I think it's just been purely because of a huge volume of inquiries that they're getting and applications that everything is just further delayed. How long does it take? There's 3 stages to the initial application. Very briefly, the initial application we submit online. They review all the forms, the supporting paperwork and the application that we've submitted. And by law, they've got 3 months to reply to us confirming either do we need additional paperwork to be added to that application, or if it's a positive or a negative resolution. So has it been approved or has it been denied? They don't normally give you a denied confirmation. They just say, look, we're missing this. You've got 10 days to provide this, and then we'll review the case again. But normally after 3 months, they should give you a positive or negative result. And then based on that, we then make a second appointment, which is to do the fingerprints. And then there's a third appointment to collect your card. So all in all, minimum 6 months.
I held my breath throughout that whole thing.
I know, 3 stages where before it was just the one.
Yes.
On the day, you get your, submit the application, you pay your local charges. You didn't need fingerprints.
No.
And you get your card there and then. Where now we're non-EUs.
I don't like that phrase third country business at all. It makes me feel
non-European.
It makes me feel angry. But anyway, that's my little political issue.
Yeah.
So, the benefit of having this bit of plastic, actually, this permission, means that we can then, as a permanent resident, we can stay in Spain all the time. We don't have to do this 90 days out of 180 days thing. That ruling is also creating a lot of conversations and confusions. Can you give me some details about how that actually works?
Okay. So as a resident in Spain, you have no limitations. You can reside, work, no problem in Spain. You can travel within the EU countries, no problem. Bear in mind that when you travel based on your passport, not on the residency card. But because you do have residency in Spain, when you're travelling, it's good to actually show your Spanish TIE card, okay? Bear in mind that when travelling within the EU, it's based on your passport, okay?
So in other EU countries, I would only have the right to stay in those countries for 90 days out of 180. Is that correct?
Correct, because your residence is here, okay? However, they give you the flexibility, and a lot of them oversee that because you are a resident in a member state, okay? But just to bear in mind that, yes, the reason why you're allowed to be here long term is because you hold Spanish residency. You wouldn't be able to do that in another EU country unless if you applied for a residency there.
Gotcha.
Okay. So there's no restrictions within the 90 days. Okay. If you've got your TIE card or the green certificate, whether it was the A4 or the little green card, that makes you a resident, even though you haven't exchanged it for your TIE. So you have no restrictions with staying here. The 90 days applies to those who aren't resident.
Yeah.
Okay. So
for example, a holiday homeowner who lives in the UK, is coming over, can now only stay up to 90 days before they have to leave the country.
Correct. So anyone who is a tourist and not a resident, we don't need visas. The UK doesn't need a visa to enter the EU, but we do get stamped in with a stamp on your passport, and it's from that date that your 6 months start. Okay, and that's why the phrase that we're hearing a lot is that you're allowed to be in Spain for 90 days with any given 6 months. So from the date that you enter, 6 months down the line, that's the time frame, and within that time frame, you're allowed to be here 90 days.
So you can come and go.
But effectively, you're only allowed to be here 180 in 1 year. But 90, so do it in slots. You come in on the 1st of January. Okay, you've got till the 30th of June. That's your 6 months. In that time frame, you can only spend 90 days here. So if you did from the 1st of June to the 31st of March, I don't know if that's 90 days or maybe a day less, it's 3 months, you would then have to leave on the 31st of March, and then you wouldn't be able to re-enter again until July, because your 90 days are within those first 6 months.
So you can't, for example, show up on the 31st of March, do 90 days until the end of June, and then roll over another 90 days and stay until the end of September. You have to leave.
So, as in that case, you'd be able to do the 90 days 1st of Jan till the 30th or 29th of March. Then you'd have to leave and then come back in July and stay another 90 days.
Yeah.
That you're allowed to do. But a lot of people think, oh, I'm up my 90 days, I'll leave, come back in, and I've got another 90 days. No.
Right.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing, isn't it?
Tough, huh?
I think what you need to think of is that in a 6 month period from the time that you enter, you're only allowed to be 90 days. And then you need to leave.
And how are they policing this, regulating it?
So all airport and ports, the control points, they're actually asking for your passport. They're checking the stamps in your passport, because you should be stamped into the country and stamped out of the country as non-EUs. And that's how they're regulating it.
And what are the penalties if you do go over that period?
Good question. We haven't had any cases yet. Sometimes there's fines. Other times they see it's just a few days and they won't say anything. I think it really depends on who you get at the airport. We've got a lot of non-EU clients that have used us for many services, and a lot of them overstayed their welcome and they haven't had a problem. They've left and hadn't had an issue coming back. However, it depends on who you get, and you could be deported and they wouldn't allow you in for X amount of time.
Right.
But as far as fines go, I wouldn't know.
It's going to hit the headlines, isn't it, when it happens, if and when it happens.
If and when it happens. I think there's a lot of flexibility at the minute with the transition period at the minute. But it is true that that's what we're entitled to. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about now people who want, God knows why would you want to do it, but want to move to Spain? I know why.
Of course, we all know why. It's fabulous here.
It's a really great place to live.
Of course.
But how are these guys going to be able to get into the country to live here permanently? What are the things that they need to comply with?
Okay, so if we leave aside the case, like we were saying, that you can prove that you were living here last year, that you can still submit it from here, okay, the application for residency. Anyone who wasn't here last year needs to apply for initial residency as a UK citizen, has to apply for residency via the Spanish consulate in the UK.
Okay.
Okay, so in the UK we've got London, Manchester, and there's also one in Edinburgh. Okay, so it's via the Spanish consulate that the initial application needs to take place. Once that's granted, you get a visa in your passport, and it's when you enter Spain with that visa that you've got to make an appointment to then do the fingerprint stage and then another appointment to collect your card. Okay, so what you're doing by applying for via the Spanish consulate is avoiding the step that we do here via immigration, that first step of supplying all documents. Those documents you would supply in the UK at the Spanish consulate.
And what sort of things are they looking for?
So funds in the bank, depending on the type of residency that you go for. Lucrative means that you're allowed to reside and work in Spain. Non-lucrative, you just are going to reside here. You don't have any rights to work here.
Like a retired person, for example. A
retired person, or someone that, for example, doesn't need to work in Spain because they get their income from another country, whether it's the UK, US, wherever. So if they don't necessarily need to work in Spain, for example, you've got a lot of yachties.
Yeah.
They don't earn an income from Spain because they're not employed in Spain by a Spanish company or self-employed in Spain. They get paid from abroad. So in that case, they could apply for non-lucrative because they have no interest in working in Spain. Okay. So that's what most people are going for at the minute. So you'd need to prove that you've got sufficient funds to not cost the system any money. You've got private medical insurance, CRB checks, criminal record background checks by the police. They normally tend to ask for one of them in the countries where you've lived the last 5 years. Then it's your passport. It's quite straightforward, but it just does feel quite overwhelming because it has to be done by the consulate, and that's where the appointments have to take place. That's actually a service that we've started helping with now, Vicky, because a lot of people are overwhelmed. They don't know what, it kind of mentions on the information sheet very briefly what you should have, but then you don't know the amounts, it's not clear, and that's why we decided to help on those side of things, where we'll give all the advice, fill out the paperwork, make the appointments, but then we can't attend the appointment with them because it's only them that can go to the appointment. But we're there to help through all the stages until they get the visa, and then we continue here.
If for example, if you're a family, mum, dad, 2 kids, you have to apply for a visa for every single person, or just the adults?
No, every single person.
And how does it work with, for example, mum and dad are going to come over here and start working. Do they have to prove that they've already got work here, or are they going to, as the idea that they would come to set up a business here? Is there different parts of the visa?
You've got entrepreneurs' visas if they want to do an investment in Spain, or if they want to set up a business in Spain, and you've got the golden visa for those who have investments in property or actually investments in Spain money-wise. That's another type of residency that we're helping with. It has no fiscal implications in Spain, so a lot of people that don't want to become resident for tax purposes, they're going for that type of residency.
The
golden visa. You've got to have a minimum of 500,000 in assets in Spain with no ties. So, for example, if you've got a property that you own here valued at 800,000.
But without a mortgage?
Without a mortgage, a minimum 500,000. So say you've got a mortgage on the 300,000 out of the 800, 500,000 is clean, then you're okay to apply for that.
Okay.
It's
very complicated, isn't it?
It is.
I feel again, my heart's beginning to pound.
Don't do that.
I know, but it makes me feel anxious. I'm so glad I'm already here.
And that's the whole idea of what we're trying to do, is reduce that anxiety, to help and guide people through these stages and put their mind at rest, really. We're used to doing it, we've got a lot of practice in it.
Yeah, hand holding is your speciality, isn't it?
We're good at that.
This is this whole new system for living and working in Spain is having a big effect on people that would normally come to work seasonally, isn't it? This year in particular, already we have a lot of issues with the tourist industry, as we're not really certain how much that season's going to actually be allowed to operate. Plus also, for example, typical British-run businesses or British focused businesses in tourist areas, they're not going to be able to get their usual amount of Brits over, are they? Because these people can't get a visa anymore, can they?
To be honest, it's what you're saying. Not only has COVID affected us, with tourism here on our little island, because we depend on tourism, but it's also that any of the workers that would come out as to say, for the summer season, anybody wanted to work in Spain for the summer season, can't do it on an NIE anymore. Before, with an NIE number, you were able to work, you'd get your NIE, you'd get your social security number, and you were able to be put on a contract for whatever the length of time.
Yeah.
But now, if they hold residency, they're not able to work here.
I guess there's going to be a big demand for Irish passport holders, for example.
Totally. And that is what a lot of people are doing. A lot of people, if they've got any type of links within their family tree to any type of other nationality, they're applying for those passports. Because that's the only way to do it. At the minute, if a local business here has to employ a British person to come and work here, not only do they need to submit and start all the paperwork here, the company needs to prove solvency, the company needs to be able to prove that they can be on a 40-hour contract, full-time contract, minimum for 1 year, and then you need to put an offer of employment here, because there might be people in Spain that can be eligible for that job, so it does complicate matters.
Yeah, it really does.
A lot. And that's one thing that I wanted to say about that, though, now. You just made me think of something. Those British citizens that are actually working, we've got clients that have travelled with the permanent residency green card, they've had no problems. It is true that once you've got your TIE, Okay, if it doesn't say permanent, you're not going to get the discounts.
Yeah, because that's another problem people have been having.
Yeah, that not only are they issuing the names or dates of birth wrong, or that they're putting at the back that you're linked to an EU citizen, but they've also been getting the status wrong. You know, it's not just a first-time residency; it's permanent. And people that don't have permanente on the TIE card will be charged the fee, you know, for today's value of that flight, and the discount won't apply.
I remember when we picked up our cards, our address is Caia Francia in Saraco, and on Ollie's card it said that he was French.
Yeah, they made a mistake with
They really
nationality.
did, yeah. And it was like, oh, and if we hadn't checked it there and then,
So
when
important.
we collected it, he'd still be French.
Yeah, it's so important. I would actually say to Kate that she should contest that, really.
Yeah, I hope she will.
And the ones that may be able to give her a certificate to prove that she is entitled to that travel discount is the town hall where she's registered. So I'd try there first. If not, I can look at an article on the Boy where it confirms that and send it to her.
That'd be great.
Boy is the official gazette, you know, where everything's published on there.
The Boib. Another thing that people have let slide, at least some people that I know have let slide, is the issue of the driving licence. Now, Ollie and I both swapped over our British driving licences to our Spanish driving licence with, I believe, the help of Majorca Solution.
I'm glad you did that in time. I'm glad you did that.
Yeah, I'm really relieved that we did it in time, because now, having come past the 31st of March deadline, again, was it 31st of March or 31st of December, this one?
Well, there's various deadlines. It was the 30th of December in order to register your licence with the Spanish DGT, which is the equivalent of the DVLA here in Spain. And you're able to drive in Spain on a British driving licence up until the 30th of June 2021.
But if you haven't done that, what's the situation?
And this is, I don't think people know where we stand. They don't even know themselves, really. But anyone who has been a resident and has a British driving licence that didn't exchange their driving licence last year, but did register the driving licence details with the DGT before the 30th of December 2020,
Oh my goodness.
has until the end of June this year to make an appointment with Trafico, which is the DGT, and book an appointment to exchange their driving licence. So those that didn't know that they had to register their driving licence before the end of last year, that are residents, won't be able to exchange their driving licence anymore.
So that means they haven't currently,
they'd have to take
and in limbo,
a new test in Spain.
in
The driving
Spanish.
licence. No, we're lucky that we can do it in English.
Oh, good.
So the test can be done in English. And there's also 2 driving instructors that will help people to take the actual practical, you know, like the driven test in English. You've got Charles McCartney and Claire. I can't remember Claire's surname, but there's both of them that do the driving licence from start to finish in English.
That's a huge relief for at least one friend of mine who completely forgot or didn't bother to swap it over, and would definitely would fail miserably if they had to do a driving test.
No, and you can do it in other languages as well, French, German, because it's a test. The theory is actually a test exam, ABC, a question and the 3 results, and you tick it. They have got it in various languages.
But then the actual practical element, they have to do that in Spanish?
Well, if you use Charles or Claire, they'll do it in English with you, and then the day of the exam, the Spanish Trafico examiner will be in the car, and if you use Charles or Claire, they will be in the car to translate for you as well.
Oh, phew.
Okay,
so there is a way round.
Yeah, there is. But at the minute, there's no agreement. What I'd advise clients to do is to actually go onto the dvla.co.uk website and under driving abroad, go to the Spanish section. I'm going to give you a little screenshot of that so you can actually include into our recording of today. And there is no agreement, but if you can sign up for email alerts. So sign up, and that's when you'll get updates as to if and when the UK make an agreement with Spain for exchange of driving licences. I hope there is. I mean, there's so many residents that didn't know they had to register their driving licence by the end of last year that having residency status, surely they should be able to exchange their driving licence.
There was a lot of disagreement, I think is the right word, controversy, about whether or not we had to, when Britain was a member of the EU, whether or not we had to swap. And I think in the end, Ollie and I just decided that it was just less hassle to swap, because a couple of times we've been stopped by police for checks or whatever, there was always the, where's your driving licence? Oh, this is incorrect, here's a fine kind of situation. So again, it's the same thing with passing through customs or whatever. It's like there's always somebody who doesn't know and thinks that it's not clear, the communication levels are not clear about what is the actual bit of paper you're supposed to have in your hand.
I mean, what I will say, for those, Brits that are living here that have got maybe an EU passport, just so they know, if you're a resident in Spain, you have 2 years from the date of when you become a resident to exchange your driving licence.
So straight from the horse's mouth.
And that's what happened, for any UK citizens that were living here previous years. A lot of them didn't know that from the date that they got residency, they had 2 years to exchange their driving licence. After the 2 years, they had to exchange it, because if they lost their driving licence, they wouldn't be able to apply for it from the UK.
No. And it's actually not very painful. I remember having to do the eye test and the hearing test, and that was hilarious.
Yeah, it's like a coordination test, buzzing the lines as well. It's so sensitive, isn't it?
It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
But the rest of it is pretty simple.
It is. It's straightforward. You know what it is? I think everybody just thinks of paperwork like a nightmare, and it just puts you off from starting, really.
Absolutely. Procrastination, though, is I'm very comfortable in the mode procrastination normally, so it's good to have. I guess it's good to get it done, and then you've got it. You can just keep it.
As soon as we've got any news on that, anyway, we've got a Facebook page which is Majorca Solutions and Properties by Majorca Solutions. Anybody that needs any updates on there, we will be putting them on there. So give us a little like and a follow to keep up.
And then we should maybe just do this like a 6 month catch up. Every 6 months you give me a cup of tea.
Yes.
And we just do this again.
Yes.
Because things keep continuously changing, aren't they?
You know what you're going to get? A cream egg. I've got a box of cream eggs left over from Easter. You can take that home. And we'll give Ollie on the camera then another one as well.
Is there anything else you think that we should talk about? Is there anything else that, any other changes, anything else that's important that you want to mention now? Because how is the housing market here at the moment, for example?
To be honest, COVID hasn't helped. We've got so many British citizens that are touching base with us, that want to come out, that want to do viewings. But with COVID at the minute, the restrictions, as you know, and lockdown in the UK is limiting. So things have been quiet. There is movement, not as much as we'd like. A lot of people that are buying are doing it via power of attorney. Yeah. Give a power of attorney to lawyers. But at the minute, due to COVID, more than Brexit, it's why it's so much quieter. And we're hoping that once restrictions are lifted because of that, I think everything's come to a standstill with COVID. Everything's so much slower in the official departments here in Spain. Yeah. Everything in general. What I can say is we've been having a lot of inquiries on nationalities, for Spanish nationality.
Really?
A lot of British citizens, that were living, have been living here in Spain, want the option of applying for another passport. And if they've been resident in Spain for 10 years or more, or if they're married to a Spaniard, we only need a year to have been married with a Spanish spouse and have 1 year residency, they can apply for Spanish nationality.
And how does that work? So I imagine that the Spanish test. Is there not?
You need to speak Spanish.
You need to speak pretty good Spanish, don't you? Not just be able to order a café con leche, but actually
there's 3 exams involved. So there is a knowledge test. The good thing about the knowledge test is that you have got material that you can study, and then it's a test, A, B, and C. You just tick the options. Then you've got a written test, and then you've got an oral and comprehension. So as long as you are, I'd say 75% fluent in Spanish, you definitely got good chances to pass it. They don't expect your Spanish to be perfect. They just want you to have a bit of knowledge, geography, and just a bit of history about Spain.
Have you got a copy of it?
I have, yeah. I'll pass it over to you.
Oh, I'd love to have a go.
Yeah.
See how I get on.
So that's been something that's been quite popular just lately.
And how long does the process take from application to? Is it ages?
I love it. Yes, it's meant to be 6 months. I've got applications that have been going on for 2 years.
Okay.
But still, if you're not in any rush, you're not losing anything, submit it. The children ones, for some reason, are coming through much quicker. If they're going into school here, there's no tests involved anyway. We have had them through within 8 months.
Yeah.
So that's, also a good one.
I think that is definitely something that we are going to be looking at for our daughter.
Yeah,
because she feels more Spanish than English anyway.
Yeah, she's bilingual, isn't anyway.
Trilingual, darling.
Yeah,
Try. Thank you.
And the other thing is that a lot of people are querying duty tax on imported goods. Anything that's imported into Spain has to have the duty tax on board, added on top, as well as VAT, 21% VAT.
Yes, it suddenly became very expensive to receive a parcel.
It has, and also when people are bringing their vehicles in from the UK and re-registering them in Spain, you have to clear customs now, okay? But there is a little loophole that if they can prove that they're doing a change of residency, that they're coming from the UK and transferring their residency to Spain, you can be exempt of the VAT, the duty tax, and the registration tax if you can prove that you've owned the vehicle for 6 months prior to coming into Spain and that you lived in the UK a minimum of 1 year.
Okay.
So there's ways of avoiding that, but just in general, we do have to pass customs, unfortunately.
Well, as always, Becky, font of all knowledge, thank you so much
for your
time. Thank you for just giving us so much information.
Pleasure, as always.
And I think that, well, hopefully the listener will get as much value out of this as I have, because I've got loads of notes now about what I've got to do.
You get stuff, you just call me after and I'll fill you in.
I've got you on speed dial anyway, girl. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Vicky. Thank you, Ollie.
See you in 6 months.
Yay! Take care.